I don't know how I'm going to top that, so I'll just, sit back down. Hey, everyone. Good morning. I'm so happy that we're all here together. It's such a joy and such a blessing to have participated in this, but also in such a dynamic and thoughtful cohort, community of learners. This begins where I'm reflecting about my time in JCLP. So I'm going to read from the sheet a little bit. I've so valued this time over the past 2 years, and it's been so incredibly special. And as I've said to my peers, my cohort, I've thought of it as so much more than just the pro seminar. It's felt a lot more like the crack team of experts coming together, the Jewish Super Friends, the Justice League, who are committed to rigorous intellectual inquiry, meaningful discourse, and we've been commissioned to transform Jewish community and rectify all of the world's problems. You know, just the small stuff expected of any graduate student. It's been so much more than a class for me. It's been a space to not just learn about so-called leadership and what that might mean, but to put it into practice and to enact our values. It's a learning laboratory where we consider what might this all look like? Judaism, community, society, pedagogy, activism, any of that. What might that look like if we were building it from the ground up, which is something that Sue Ann Savas asked us when she visited our first year seminar last year. More than that, it's been something akin to family. It's a source of celebration, joy, humor, and support, not only through the hard times that come from graduate school, but also the flare-ups of violence, xenophobia, suffering that we've seen now in this moment, as Carla would say. The space has truly been an incubator for me. I'm so grateful for it and for you all. I came in with very little experience in the so-called organized mainstream institutional Jewish community. I hadn't been to a federation and only vaguely knew of the world of Jewish philanthropy. I'd also never practiced social work, and I didn't even really know what it meant. But through JCLP, I've been able to sit with individuals and families through illnesses and the end of life through my work with the Jewish Hospice and Chaplaincy Network, ask probing questions and occasionally give tochacha, rebuke, to high-level federation and foundation executives in closed-door meetings. I've been able to sing nigunim, wordless melodies, while learning of the existentialist Torah of Rabbi Nachman and the activist Torah of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. Been able to fundraise and use university coffers to subsidize radical Jewish Latinx poetry and rabble-rousing, and to reflexively and collectively interrogate our relationships as Jews with fraught issues of identity and intersectionality, power and privilege, anti-Semitism, Zionism, and more. It's become such a fixture in my life to have this set time and space to process and question with people who really care, that it hasn't really hit me yet what it will be like to move on and to not have these Wednesday nights together. I'm blessed, thank God, to have beloved community, but you can't replicate this. I just wanted to mention some words that I found while looking through my JCLP journals, which was, as an assignment, Carla requires that every week we're reflecting on the stuff we deal with. And so looking back over my collected 2 years, I have about 60 pages of text that I looked through and was reflecting on. And I found a little snippet that came from after I participated in a demonstration in downtown Detroit with a group, If Not Now, who works to end the American Jewish support for the occupation in Palestine. And this was in November of 2016. So it was a time in which I felt kind of politically motivated for, as Heschel would say, moral grandeur and spiritual audacity. And so I went to this protest in lieu of seminar, making my stand. And granted, there were only I don't even think there was a minyan. There weren't even 10 of us there. So it was kind of an insignificant, in some ways it felt, we didn't make a big splash, but in some ways it was so significant. And I found these words that I wrote last year. And I said, one of my takeaways from this was that there was something that both Judaism and justice work have in common, is obligation. Regardless of the potential results, spiritual edification or political change, you have a responsibility to do the damn thing, whether that's showing up in protest or lighting Shabbat candles. Obviously, we want to use the most skillful means and best strategies to make it happen. But all in all, we've got to, as Leonard Cohen, Zichron Levarcha, said, forget our perfect offerings and ring the bells that still can ring. I think it's really easy to focus on deficiencies and missteps in post-action analysis, and this can quickly lead to a loss of hope. But this is what community is there for, to provide that support and that nudge and that sense of responsibility to get you back out there, working until those actions are effective. I think that this sense of commitment has been one of my main takeaways from my experience in JCLP. And I'm reminded of the words of Rabbi Tarfon from Pirkei Avot, the sayings of our ancestors, which is something of our JCLP motto. I saw it's on the program. But it's not incumbent on you to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist yourself from it. And I share this reflection with you all and with you in particular, because this has been such a guiding light for me. This sense of whether it's with social work, Jewish community, or all of those intersections, we have to keep doing the work. This is about togetherness and mutual accountability. This is about holding each other in tenderness and in that accountability, in tension and in flow. This is about deepening and elaborating our interconnectedness, getting further intertwined and connected with one another, knowing that, as Reb Zalman said, the only way to get it together is together. And so in this moment, I just feel extremely grateful to have spent the past 2 years with you all, Carla, in the School of Social Work, and all my teachers, and to be celebrated by all of you in this process of learning and growing together. And my blessing for us all is may we continue to grow together, to hold each other accountable, and to hold each other tenderly. Thank you all.
Thanks, Jake. That was beautiful. The Jewish people, ever since David slew Goliath, have never considered youth as a barrier to leadership. JFK. Thank you to my family, my friends, Paige and Carla, for the opportunity to learn in JCLP for the last 2 years. As we move across the country, I hope this program has inspired in each of us the calling of leadership. I know JCLP will help me in my upcoming position as Youth Engagement Director to build meaningful community and cultivate leadership in Jewish youth in Miami. Does anyone need a winter jacket? I'm done with that. To my cohort, you all are amazing. Because you've asked the insightful questions I would have never thought to ask, shared perspectives I never heard before, and were always willing to take the time to help me understand these things, I've learned so much from each of you. I hope you've gained as much from me as I have from you. To the first years, you're second years now. Good luck, enjoy it. I know I could really use a third year here in JCLP. To those graduating, thank God we made it, and good luck in all of our futures. My time in Ann Arbor and in JCLP has been quite the learning experience with plenty of challenges. Despite these challenges, like my many field placements and learning to drive in the snow, I feel this program has really been transformative. Never before, and I'm not sure when again, will I get the opportunity to be challenged with so many unique thoughts and perspectives and views on the Jewish community. I really believe I'm a better leader because of this. I plan to use these experiences to encourage the children and teens I will be working with to express their connection to the Jewish community, not just by participating in it, but by challenging it to be more. I hope to inspire the next generation of leaders to strive for equity, inclusion, and justice in the Jewish community and beyond. So to close, as the notorious RBG encourages, fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. Thanks.
Good morning. I feel like I should be saying Shabbat Shalom to everyone, but it's just,
Kol Yisrael arivim ze baze. All Jews are responsible for one another. This phrase has been the cornerstone of my family and is what has brought me into the Jewish Communal Leadership Program. Before this program, I was proud to be a Jew. I had a strong sense of self, of my values and beliefs, of my relationship with Judaism. I cared deeply for the Jewish community, and every social service opportunity was driven by the notion of Kol Yisrael arivim ze baze. So a little over 20 months ago, I stumbled upon the University of Michigan's Jewish Communal Leadership Program in the School of Social Work. And I thought to myself, this is right up my alley. This is the next natural step in my Jewish journey. What I didn't realize was just how much I would learn. I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional. Both about myself and about the Jewish community that surrounds me. When I entered into this program, I thought I was the queen of Judaism. I mean, I went to Camp Ramah after all. But I quickly came to realize that I was far from an expert. While I was hesitant at first, Carla and the rest of the JCLP students gave me the tough love I so badly needed to push myself beyond my comfort zone. It is in this space that I have been able to think critically about the nuances of the Jewish community. JCLP is a one-of-a-kind program where diverse students can come together and have a unique space to learn and grow. Having gone through this program, I am leaving not only with a thirst for continued learning, but also a deeper understanding of the significance of differing perspectives. So in fear of making this sound too much like a Federation fundraising pitch, because I know I will have plenty of those to do over the next few years, I'll just say this: Kol Yisrael arivim ze baze. We are all responsible for one another. As my fellow classmates and I leave this valuable space and bring our newfound knowledge into the world at large, may we bring this phrase with us. I'm incredibly excited to see what we are all able to accomplish and the benefit we make on the Jewish community and beyond. A huge thank you to Carla, who has challenged me to explore my Jewish identity in ways I never knew I could. And to Paige, who has allowed me to spend countless hours in her office as I navigated through this transitional chapter in my life. You are both incredible professionals, and I appreciate your commitment to enriching our lives and preparing us for the future. To my cohort, I couldn't have done this without you. You are all unbelievably beautiful people, and I can't thank you enough for pushing me to think differently about absolutely every Jewish issue under the sun, or should I say in the Jewish tent. Lastly, to my family, you are the reason I am who I am today, and your encouragement and unwavering support is forever cherished. Thank you.
For many reasons, coming to Michigan was a huge leap of faith for me. I left a long-term job, social justice, and Jewish communities I was deeply involved with. I left my family, my dearest friends, mild winters, biscuits, pimento cheese, much more. I think the biggest reason I took that leap and came to this program was simply because of the deep curiosity and sometimes coincidence that has carried me down so many paths so far in my life. I was curious to find out where I might end up if I had the boundless opportunities of the University of Michigan and gave myself 2 years to pursue them. I was curious about how far I could push myself to become a more conscious activist and advocate if I intentionally surrounded myself with people I knew I could and should learn from. I was curious to continue to deepen a spiritual journey that had emerged on my path and had already brought me surprising joy in a short period of time. Going back to school, I wanted the precious time and space to explore these curious parts of myself academically and personally. And I got a lot of time. I very unscientifically calculated more than 535 hours, about 13 and a half work weeks that this group has spent together talking about big questions and dreaming about big, equitable, innovative solutions in seminar, at conferences, in Judaic studies classes, and at bars. And while I've enjoyed learning about budgeting and human resources, sorry, Barb, these times with JCLP have been the most impactful and most challenging intellectual experiences of my time at the School of Social Work. I have been so impressed and inspired by the curiosity of these folks in the front row. You've challenged me to center the perspective of the individual, to be a social worker first and foremost before being a nonprofit administrator or evaluator. You have so beautifully and thoughtfully challenge some of the most important leaders in the American Jewish community. And I have learned so much from your models of open facilitation and deep listening. I'm so grateful to this community, which has been the most affirming, non-judgmental Jewish community, maybe any community, that I've ever been a part of. I'm so glad to have this group as an example to strive for in the future when I'm responsible for setting that tone. Thank you to Carla for setting and holding that accepting space and for opening the doors to so many opportunities for this group and for me personally. Thanks to wonderful Paige for keeping all the wheels turning and being such a support for all of us before and during the program and probably after, because you're not getting rid of me. Thanks to everyone else in this room who has been my teacher or field supervisor for really knowing how to be the kind of social work support I needed, and to all the folks who have given so much of their time personally to help me get the most out of this social work experience. Thanks to my family for being here today and for always being such a consistent foundation of love and support. And Garrett, thank you for your easygoing support of all of my pursuits, from packing up and following me to the Midwest, to always agreeing to nail things to the walls even before the furniture's set up. And thanks again to this group. I'm so excited to see where your openness and curiosity leads you and our broader community.
Hi, everyone. I'm Essie, in case you're not following along. Earlier this spring, students in JCLP were lucky enough to plan and attend a weekend of events with Aurora Levins Morales, a wonderfully moving poet and activist from California. Aurora spoke of historical pasts, capacious presents, and inspired futures. We asked her about urgency of this particular political moment, which is a question that is always on our minds, both as social workers and Jewish communal leaders. What does our community need right now? What can we do to fight the newest executive order? What are the most immediate needs of our clients in crisis? How should we respond to urgency regarding Jewish continuity? Aurora's response was to stay grounded in a sustainable movement that can address both immediate needs as well as preserve ourselves for the future. She explained that a major tenet of building the sustainable movement is to hold tightly to our imagined ideal future, while not forgetting the reality of present times. She said, "Keep your feet in the mud and your head in the stars." I've been thinking about these words since she spoke them and letting their impact really sink in. Of course, it makes so much sense that we should imagine our ideal future in our work as Jewish professionals, social workers, and Jewish social justice advocates. An architect wouldn't build a house without a blueprint illustrating the final project, so how can we work towards something we can't visualize? I felt slightly guilty that I didn't have a concrete vision for my ideal future for the Jewish community, even though I'd been working towards some nebulous future for the past 2 years in JCLP. Daydreaming about a fantasy future just felt so indulgent. Sure, I'd like the Jewish community to be more understanding, inclusive, diverse, and less satisfied with the status quo. But these descriptors are so vague that I didn't really know what that would look like in practice. But over the past few weeks, as I've been reflecting on my experience in JCLP, I realize I do have a vision for this future. In JCLP, we have created a microcosm that reflects what I hope for the Jewish community. The JCLP cohort, though its membership has changed over the past 2 years, is a place where all are included and made to feel valuable. It's a place where good intent is always assumed, and that's the only assumption made. It's a place where Jews of all different backgrounds work together and contribute different perspectives. It's an environment where we can and do disagree vehemently and still love and respect each other. It's a place where young people feel invested in the community and empowered to take charge, a place where we live our values, a space of moral courage and audacious leadership, a place where we challenge and comfort each other, a place where I feel at home. So thank you, members of last year's cohort, the rising second years, and my fellow graduates, for contributing to this beautiful space that was without a doubt the best part of my grad school experience. You have all challenged me, stretched my worldview, and lifted me up. You have not only helped craft my vision, for our communal future, but I now have hope that it can be a reality with you as leaders and change makers. I'd also like to thank Carla and Paige for cultivating a space in which we were able to grow personally and collectively as leaders, activists, and thinkers. It's not always easy to support cohesion and respect in a group whose members hold such vastly different opinions and personalities, but you were able to do so gracefully and as excellent role models for us. Mazel tov, Jake, Erica, Alana, Leah, Ilana, and Eli. I can't wait to see what we do in our starry-headed, muddy-footed futures.
Hello again. About 11 and a half years ago, at the age of 12, I gave a beautiful speech on the Torah portion Vayera. Unfortunately, what I prepared for you all this morning is not a full rendition of that speech, but rather an emphasis on an important word I talked about then that I want to share with you all today. And that word is hineni, meaning here I am. This word often shows up in the Torah when the thing to be done is something hard. The response is something like, I hear your call. I understand what you are asking of me, and I'm prepared and ready to do it because I recognize, although it is hard, is it important that I act. In other words, hineni is the word the Torah uses to bring us fully present into a moment. In our liturgy, the cantor sings, hineni, here I am with deep humility, to prepare us all for prayer service. When I first started this MSW program, I felt prepared to take on the challenges and injustices that permeated our world with passion and meet every one of my clients' needs with a forceful hineni. While I was ready and willing to be fully present and dwell in the difficulty of clinical social work, the challenges that I wasn't prepared for involved being called upon to think as deeply, critically, and differently about my own identity, specifically my Jewish identity. I quickly discovered that when it came to topics about Israel, my Jewish education, and privilege, mustering the courage to stare those contentious topics in the eye did not come as naturally. Almost 2 years later, I proudly stand before you with a brand new way to apply the word hineni. Hineni. Here I am, trembling yet rooted in my commitment to my Jewish people. When I began my JCLP journey, I understood what Jewish community looked like from within. However, I soon realized that I still had a lot to learn about the Jewish community in the context of the world. It was not something that I had previously needed to think much about, and coming into a Jewish graduate program, I hadn't anticipated otherwise. That quickly changed as soon as I got the chance to experience the Ann Arbor Jewish community, a behind-the-scenes look into the world of Jewish Federation and some of our country's most influential Jewish leaders. A lot of what I learned during these past 20 months has been the difficult, real, challenging, and important topics of what Judaism is and means in the 21st century. During my first year of the program, with every new guest speaker and new revelation, I would find myself stunned and sometimes even furious. My heart saying, leave, but I would always decide to stay. Each week, I found myself eager to return to seminar, our weekly class consisting of equal parts passion, confrontation, and growth. While conversations that pushed and provoked me were hard, I've come to value the way that with honest reflection and dialogue comes healing. Hineni, here I am, so new to the Jewish professional world. I stand ready to represent my beliefs and actions, even in moments of alienation or discomfort. Making ultimatums, walking away from social justice work because it doesn't happen on my terms is simply not an option. I have no choice but to continue working for what I perceive to be right, even if I'm not always sure where the path ahead will take me. Hineni, here I am as an MSW and JCLP graduate, empowered and motivated, present in this moment, and enthusiastic about what lies ahead. I want to thank my parents for being living examples of how to live a life full of hineni, what it means to show up for others and show up for myself. Thank you, Carla and Paige, for guiding me throughout the last 2 years with endless support. To the first year cohort for making this past year so awesome. And of course, SC, Eli, Alana, Leah, Erica, and Jake for not only being my peers, but my community, my teammates, my heroes, my mishpacha, my family. You have all been such an integral part of why this experience was so positive. Thank you for inspiring me and challenging me to always be my best. I couldn't have done it without you.
11 years ago this weekend, I was gathered around friends, family, and Jewish community at my bar mitzvah. At age 13, I was asked to emerge into a leader within the Jewish community when I knew very little about leadership and hadn't the faintest idea of what my Jewish identity meant to me. Thanks to JCLP, I now have excellent leadership skills. I continue to be challenged, however, in finding resolution in my Jewish identity. But then again, the challenge of navigating Judaism in my life has led me to this podium in front of you fantastic people, and for that I'm grateful. At my bar mitzvah 11 years ago this weekend, my dad told me that when faced with a choice, the right decision may not always be the one that works out best for me. Whether or not he knew the depth of his wisdom he was gifting me, it's taken me 11 years and a master's degree to become proximate to its meaning. So here goes nothing. In social justice spaces, we're often asked to think about the ways in which both privilege and oppression show up in our lives. We discuss our lived experiences through dialogue, challenge one another to be vulnerable, organize actions together, and grow. And then we do it again and again and again and again. In the countless times that I've sprinted, crawled, froze, and even moved backward through this cycle, I've developed a lens in which I see the world. I've also come to realize the ways in which the world sees me. As a white, upper-class, straight-passing, able-bodied Jewish American man, I have enough privilege and agency to make nearly any choice I want when I'm presented with a decision, as my dad suggested would come before me. Ironically, I'm only aware of this reality because folks with far less privilege than I have been generous enough to share their lived experiences of being marginalized, have challenged me to be vulnerable with them, has shown me what an action oriented towards justice looks like, and have lovingly built a container for me to grow in. My social justice education is a privilege that required the emotional and physical labor of people who have to work infinitely harder than I do to survive in this world. Despite that, I am still the one afforded with an opportunity to stand at a podium with a microphone and captive audience. For those here that know me well, I don't think it will come as any surprise when I tell you that since I attended last year's JCLP graduation ceremony, very few days have gone by without me considering what I wanted to say in my graduation speech today. When faced with a choice, the right decision may not always be the one that works out best for me. Every choice I face in life is underlined by the history of decisions that have been made before it. Many of those decisions didn't include me, but they have nevertheless created the circumstances through which I see the world and the world sees me. Conversely, the choices that present themselves to me today do include me and will help create circumstances that in our world in the future. Today, more than ever, when faced with a choice, the right decision must be the one that does not immediately work out best for me. For those of us who recognize the presence of privilege in our lives, our commitment to justice must exceed the immediate benefits that could arise from a decision that works out best for us. The difference between acknowledgement and action is that acknowledgement of privilege is passive. Action invites change. Giving up privilege has not and never will be a passive act. If we want the world to change, we must change too. Change and justice depend on the decisions we make and the actions we follow through on, even if they do not work out best for us right now. For in time, justice, purpose, and happiness become one and the same. I want to thank my dad for giving me such profound wisdom at such a young age, my mom for nourishing my soul to find meaning in it, my brothers for helping me be the best version of myself, my boyfriend Will for his ears, his eyes, and his heart, and my JCLP cohort Paige and Carla for helping me find my voice. Thank you.